Hi, everybody. Happy Monday morning. And I'm just going to just wait just a moment or two until we have some people joining us. So I hope you're all having a great day. I hope you can all hear me. Okay, so today is day one of us exploring the 4 different relationship archetypes. And I am really excited to be sharing these 4 days, this 4-day training with you. And so we'll get started here in just a few minutes. And we'll let some people join on. And I'm just going to actually see, let me see if there's a way. I'd love to be able to have this be interactive. So if you have any questions or things like that, as they come up during today's training, that you can go ahead and ask them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see if I can monitor that on the page here, so I should be able to see them. Okay, so let's get started this morning. So there are some new members joining, so welcome, and I'm so happy that you signed up for this 4 days of live training. And so my name is Iris Siriani, and I do what I do because I've always had this this curiosity about people in general and in relationships, and why some women are, they're good in relationships. Like my sisters and my brothers, they don't have like big relationship problems. They meet somebody, they fall in love, and then they get married to that person, and they stay in these relationships for a long time. Whereas me, I've always weaved my way in and out of relationships. I mean, I've been married and I've been divorced, and I've had a couple of significant relationships over my lifetime. But for a long time, I really struggled in relationships. So I, became curious about, why do some women struggle in relationships? Why do we do what we do? So this kind of got me on the path of becoming a relationship and dating coach. And what I've discovered for myself is that the better I became, the better relationships I had. But one small part of it are relationship archetypes. And there are 4 different relationship archetypes that we're going to explore over a 4-day period of time. So we're going to explore one archetype per day. And I'm going to be talking about some of the characteristics of that archetype, who they are, how they show up in relationships. I'm going to tuck that in behind there, and how they interact in relationships, and the type of people that they will attract to them more often than not. So I'm going to get started in today's archetype. Or before we get into that, an archetype really is just the basis of how we interact, or it's the fundamental characteristics of who we are and the reason that we do the things we do. So, there is no good, bad, right or wrong with any of the archetypes. These are all learned things from when we were just a very young child, and it forms the story of how we do life, right? So everything that we do in life is our story, and at any point in time we can also change that story. So in today's relationship archetype, I'm going to talk about the anxious or ambivalent archetype. So this person is characterized. Hi, Karen. How are you? I'm so happy that you're joining us. So feel free to ask any questions that you have as it comes up, and I'll be able to answer your questions. So the ambivalent or anxious archetype is, they're a people pleaser, and they give so much more than what they get. Oftentimes in the relationship, they really are a people pleaser. This archetype is, they can be quite self-critical and perhaps insecure. And as a result, in their relationships, they really need a lot of reassurance and approval from their partners. They fear being rejected, and what that does is it can cause them to be a little bit clingy or over dependent on their partner. So they really, seem to be emotionally desperate in their relationships, or can come off as very emotionally desperate in their relationships. So some characteristics of this relationship archetype: they really crave intimacy and closeness. And as I mentioned, they rely on their partner a fair amount to fulfill what they seem to be lacking, or what they perceive to be lacking within themselves. So basically, they want their partner to rescue them so that they can feel complete within themselves. And they need a lot of reassurance within the relationship as well. And when they don't get that reassurance that they need, they can become anxious and actually become quite distressed in the relationship. So they're always seeking that approval and reassurance from their partners that they are okay in the relationship and that things are going well. So what happens is that they aren't getting what they need from the relationship, and they're not getting that reassurance and that affirmation that yes, we're good and everything's good. So what happens then is they start to go out and they look for things to prove that there is something wrong in the relationship. So oftentimes what they'll do is they will go and they will, let's say, search their partner's phone to see what he's doing, any, text messages or anything like that, or even, search out social media to see, well, what types of things is that person posting, and, anything that would further prove that okay, they're not safe and secure, because this type of archetype really does need to feel safe and secure in this relationship. So I'm just going to stop right here before we go on and just see if anybody on the live stream has any questions about this archetype so far. Any questions that you have? Okay, so no questions. That's good. Okay, so other characteristics of this archetype in a relationship. They tend to excuse a lot of really bad behavior in their relationships. They forgive it. They focus on the good, and then they downplay the bad. Oftentimes, they'll make excuses for what their partner is doing in the relationship. And if they feel like they are, not getting what they need in the relationship, their clinginess and their neediness, oftentimes what they'll do is they will try and give more to that other person in the relationship. So they'll buy things, they'll pay for things, they'll actually do more and contribute more, and, just really overextend themselves, over people please in the relationship, in hopes to feel like that person loves them more. So, and of course, when they don't get what they need, they become clingy and needy and feel, emotionally desperate in that relationship. So what happens is it causes a lot of conflict. So the other person is spending a lot of time doing the reassuring and, defending their position in the relationship, saying, we're good, there's nothing going on, that type of thing. So there's a lot of conflict and a lot of drama that becomes self-perpetuated. Okay, so those are some of the characteristics in the relationship. So, where does it all come from? How does somebody get like this? So I have this saying, and I've heard it someplace before. I kind of adopted it from someplace that I've heard it before. But everything that we learn before we're in kindergarten, right? So our caregivers, that whether that's our parents or, if we were raised by an aunt or an uncle or wherever you happen to be raised, grandparent, whoever your primary caregiver is, those people become our tribe, right? And everything that we learn from our tribe from a really, really young age. So what happens with this archetype, what has happened with them from a very young age is they have learned their survival mechanism has been resulted in they're not feeling safe and secure as a young child. And so sometimes what a really great example is that, let's say you have a mother and a father, let's say they have a lot of children. They can't always meet the needs of all of their children, their emotional needs of all of their children. So sometimes if the parents are feeling overwhelmed, they might not be able to react in a nurturing and supporting way consistently with that young person. So sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not. Sometimes the young person's needs are being met and other times their needs aren't being met. So what this causes is confusion in this young person. They don't know what to expect. So what they do is they want to feel that safety and security. And the way they do that is by becoming clingy and distrustful really in the relationship. So now as we move into what type of relationships does this anxious archetype typically attract? Well, oftentimes they are going to attract somebody just like them, right? Because we attract who we are, right? So, but what happens when they attract somebody that is just like them, it almost becomes like you have these two likes coming together, but they act like that magnet that kind of repels each other. And what you end up having is both of this over-pleasing and this overwhelming need to feel validated and safe and secure, and neither one can provide any consistency in that relationship because they're both trying to feel that safety and security from one another. And so what you'll find oftentimes is that one person, when they're feeling pretty good in the relationship, bears a brunt of the other person's feelings and vice versa. So it kind of goes like this in a back and forth, but not always in a smooth way because they're not always able to give each other what they need. The other type of person or archetype that the anxious archetype will attract is somebody that is avoidant and resist relationships. So we're going to talk about this tomorrow in the live training. But this particular, the avoidant archetype, this is a very independent person. And so they tend to not show up fully in a relationship. They're kind of there, but they're not there. They're really resistant to being in the relationship, and they're very independent. So you can just imagine you've got a really independent person here who has the ability to shut down emotionally, and then conversely you have this anxious archetype who needs that safety and security in a relationship, and that creates a lot of drama in that unique situation, because the more the avoidant archetype, pushes away, the clingier and the more desperate the anxious archetype is going to be, and it just creates a lot of drama. So that unique combination is not the best combination. However, it's the most common characteristics for our common archetype that anxious person tends to attract into their lives. So lots of drama, lots of chaos that goes in those types of relationships. So to recap then, that is our anxious archetype. And they are, they're just looking for safety and security in their relationship. They need lots of confirmation and, reassurance that all is well in the relationship. And any questions about this particular relationship archetype? No questions? Okay, so that then concludes today's training on the anxious archetype. Tomorrow, like I mentioned, we're going to be talking about the avoidant archetype, also called the resistor in the relationship. Am I sensitive? Yes. Okay. If you want to know who I am definitely the anxious person in my relationships. And the nice thing about it is, yes, Karen, I am very sensitive. I am often called overly sensitive, and I'm okay with that. I'm overly sensitive, but I have also done a lot of work on myself to feel really, really good about myself and really strong about myself. And I really focus on giving myself what I need rather than looking to external sources to fulfill what I feel like I'm lacking. So I feel complete within myself, and it's changed the dynamics of my relationship significantly. So does that answer your question? We'll just wait for any more questions that are coming up. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to talk about, like I said, the avoidant, because the anxious, the anxious person will oftentimes attract and be in a relationship with an avoidant archetype. So I think that's pretty significant. So we're going to be talking about that tomorrow. Now, if you haven't registered for this live training, although you're able to see it in the live Facebook group, and you're going to be able to watch the replays in the live Facebook group, like with videos, you can watch them, but they kind of get lost in the feed further on down. So, but if you register for it, you're going to be able to get the replays and then watch it over and over again. So, if there are no other questions, that is, short and sweet. I don't want to have this any more than kind of like 20 minutes long. And with that, I'll sign off, and we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, have a great day. Bye.